There's an ancient kingdom hidden inside Accra.
They are from Israel.
They live between tradition and modern life every single day.
Far away, people saw them and say, the Ganga.
This is the Gancha Kingdom, custodians of the city, and they fight to preserve their culture.
I'm Ganga. I'm the god of my tribe.
For over 500 years, the Gancha people have called this city home. They built life here long before Accra became the city it is today. But as the city grew, they began to lose something precious, their land. Piece by piece, it was either sold or developed.
They don't recognize us at all. Maybe they've been taking our properties. They've been taking our properties.
With a population of over 2 million, Gancha families now find themselves pushed to the edges of their own city, fighting to hold on to their identity.
We are fighting hard. Very soon you will hear that the Gancha are up again.
As a young Ghanaian born in a different part of the country, I was left with many questions. Why did they choose to live here? How did they endure this difficult life as the city grew? And most importantly, how do they survive in a modern African city? Being curious could only get me far, so I set out on a mission to get the answers to my questions. I heard about the Gancha Palace, which is the seat of the paramount chief of the Gancha. So I started my journey through the city, and just like that, I finally arrived at the palace. When I arrived at the palace, I expected to speak with anyone who could walk me through their history and the way of life. But the palace was so quiet, no one was available to talk. It felt like trying to unlock a story that didn't want to be told. So guys, I'm currently at the Gancha Palace, and then I came here to see if I could get my questions answered on the origins of the Gancha people, who they really are, and what it means to actually live in a city like Accra. I went to their secretary's office to see if she could get me a top official to get my questions answered, but then she told me that in the coming weeks there will be a ban on noise making, and this is like a tradition that's been taking place over the years. Every single year it happens, and so because of that, those top officials are not available. And so I thought it wise that, okay, then if I'm not getting information here, why don't I go to the typical Gancha localities to see if I'll be able to get some indigenous Gancha people to get my questions answered, since they are the real people out there. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and I'll see you guys at Jamestown. On my way, I decided to pass by the National Museum. They had a setup dedicated to the Gancha people with artifacts and cultural displays. I spoke with the museum manager. He wasn't Gancha himself, but he gave me what he could, which is a glimpse into the history, their identity, and the misconceptions they face. It wasn't everything I was looking for, but it was a good start.
Yes, I'm Dr. Mahmoud Malik Sako. I'm an assistant director of museum and an archaeologist. The question you asked regarding to the origin of the Gancha people. So this is a question that has been repeated a number of times when people come to the museum to look at the setup we have with regard to the Gancha culture. And then when you look at the Gancha history, if you go back and read from the JSS, it tells you a lot of things about the Gancha people. And even sometimes when you look at what some of the things that the Gancha people do, it also gives you an idea where these people might have actually come from. From the history that we read from the books, they said the Gancha people claim they were from Israel, and then they passed through a lot of places finally before they got to Accra. That's why when they were coming far away, people saw them and said, look at the Ganga. So but they were coming, they just look like their aunt, and that's why they have the Ganga people coming. So until when they came, they settled. But at least the people themselves, when you ask them, they'll tell you that they are from Middle East, that is Israel. Sometimes it's good for you when somebody mentioned that he's coming from Israel. You have to look at what are the similarities can you actually make out of it. As a student of history and a student of religion, and also working with a museum concept, there is some kind of similarities as far as these origins the people are claiming can be testified. If you look at what the Homo War Festival, the Homo festival is putting at one hunger. And you can see that during that period, they have what they call popoy. And then where at a certain period of time, where the popoy is actually what, spread around some important street and some important area within the Gamashi area. If you want to look at this popoy, the material that we use to prepare, that is yam and palm oil and all those, and you go back to the Old Testament and go and look at the Passover. So you realize that the Passover was actually prepared by using unleavened bread, that is unfermented dough that were used in preparing these. And then in that period, everybody have to actually prepare this food and giving out to people as a way of trying to bring some kind of unity among the communities. If you read the Old Testament very well, as far as the Passover is concerned. So looking at the way it was done, you can see that the popoy is virtually like the Passover. But the question you ask, why are there people not using the unleavened bread? Because the distance between the two nations. History will tell you that, or culture will tell you, as you move away from the mother culture or the mother history, there are certain things that are likely to change. They may not be as the original architects. It could be that when the people got here, they could not actually get the unleavened bread, and then they have to use these other material that they are using. So that is what we call appropriation of culture. So they have to find ways and means to still continually some of these things. And even those days, if you look at it in the Bible, they may not call it hooting at hunger, but you can see that it has some kind of significance as far as the Israeli culture is concerned. And it's also play a very significant role as far as the Ghana history is concerned. And if you even look at the dress of the Wulum, that white dress that normally they wear around moving with barefoot, it actually tries to talk to you about the Levite among the Israelis in the Bible. So if you read the parable of the Good Samaritan, you can actually see the Wulumi who try to actually play the spiritual role within the Ghana a traditional area.
So how does modernization affect the Ghana culture?
Modernization is not only affecting the Ghana culture, that is Ghanaian culture per se, because we try to introduce a lot of things within some of these cultures. If you go and look at the palace, the architecture of the Ghana palace, you can see there has been a lot of modernization into it. You can even look at now, you go there, he's using tiles, he's using a lot of things. Even the drink they use, it's supposed to be traditional drinks, but now you go and they are looking Western drinks, and even sometimes when you are even going there, you need to go with the most expensive drink before you can see the cheap. And these are things that has affected the culture. So you mean that a person who do not have some of these kind of expensive drinks, you can have access to the Ganchi. You can also look at this issue of Europeanization of our history. Most of these people that actually ascended to the throne, when you look at them virtually, these are people who have lived outside the country. Sometimes they may not actually have the full grasp of the culture. You can see that they are alien to the Ghana history and culture. And you can also see that because of this issue of modernization, you can see that there is virtually lack of unity among them, and which is as a result of this issue of modernization that have come. Everybody want to be a chief. Everybody wanted to have independence, because the various Ghana traditional area, instead of being really behind one particular chief, so that they can have the Ghana kingdom or the Ghana state. You see that each of them have different ways of doing things, and that is as a result of this issue of modernization and Europeanization of our history and culture.
I went on to ask him about the misconceptions most people have about the Ghana people.
That is the perception people try to create, as far as, especially if you look at the Ghana, because it's become a cosmopolitan area. Everybody want to visit Accra. Everybody want to be in the capital city, because that is where opportunities are. And you know that when there are opportunities in one particular limited space, there is going to be struggle. And when there is struggle, as normal, as usual, there will be a fight. People have to struggle for spaces. So in a course that you see that there will be a kind of infighting among the people themselves of how to control resources. And now you can see that space is becoming very important in any part of Accra. So the various family heads who have access to these spaces, they may not want to even talk to the chief for how the chief can help them to appropriate these spaces that they have, because of material things. They will actually want to do those things, and that will actually also affect certain things that are happening. And people may look at it, the Ghana people or the people living in the urban area are usually people like fighting, especially this issue Langard. So many people look at the Ghana people as the people associated with Langard, but frankly speaking, when you go deep and you look at the people that are doing this Langard thing, they are not, in many cases, not Ghana people. These are foreigners who have come settled in Accra for a long time. People have bought land and people started to use them as people have to take care of this. But because they speak Ga, speaking the language does not mean that the village is one of them. And that's why sometimes I said, we don't need to actually do that kind of generalization. At least the Ga may not be considered as lazy people, because if they were lazy, they wouldn't have been able to build Accra as it is. Because when the capital was moved from Cape Coast to Accra, it was not like this. But you can see that the Ga people have done well. They have contributed their quota to the development of the country. So that kind of intertribal fighting and other kind of negative feelings that people have towards the Ga. Historical setup. So I always try to tell all Africans that we have to appreciate what our forefathers have actually left for us and see how do we protect it and preserve it for the next generation that are going to come. If we refuse and then we destroy it, then we should just call it.
After the museum, I continued my journey heading deeper into the heart of the city. Jamestown, one of the oldest parts of the city and home to some of the most authentic Ga communities. Here, I wasn't looking for stories, I was looking for a connection. I met locals, real people rooted in this land who were kind enough to share with me what they know. We spoke about the local Ga foods and the everyday life of the Ga people in this community.
David said, "We are now 5 hours.
5 hours time.
And now 6 hours. Say this is what we are getting to the party. If you got 12 hours from now,
But I'll be back on the party to Sana on your
I'm about to
like this.
No, those ones. The idea was a plan. The community, you have a view of house. But for you back, you can get. Wow, I don't know, money, yeah, memory.
Okay.
Money, yeah, memory. Yeah, go or to you. Now, you're going to head you. You were done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where was the I ever did it? It is a man of far home. Yeah, now, yes.
Yeah, for the Yasen. Yeah, Juma. And now, yeah, the Paboni Fortune. You're Ginny Patrick. If you are meeting now with the CRM, Omo me, Mubusian for. Better now, almost 6 years. Omo Mubusian for. Omo Mamida. Omo Papada. Omo Mubusian for Crapola.
So you came to stay here, but then they knew nothing about you. But then they just accepted you the way you are. That's very powerful. The people around you, right? What do they do that makes you like them?
The Mama
Like how?
like yeah, Sabia, me, Yabia, Mama. Says Canamia, Mama. Say a Tuda, Menisika, Momboa.
Okay.
Now, so a Bianua. Among for so are Omoya Nipa. So like Nipa Bebo.
Yeah.
It's all bad. Uba Bifino, young, I Nipa no Pesola.
Okay.
Obia Fioqua. I want to. I just say, oh, I won't castle now. I'll Nipa Beji or two.
So what do you like about your culture? Like being a Ghana? What do you like about it?
To be in a gang, I'm a gang. I have to be proud of my, my tribe, But still, more things must be done,
Like what?
Like even our chieftains, things are like it's not that.
So it means that like the people are not.
You have to come together. You have to come together and understand each other.
Before this journey, I barely knew anything about the Gancha people, even though I lived in Accra for years. But walking through the neighborhoods, listening to the stories, and witnessing their way of life reminded me of something we often forget, that every city has custodians, people who were here long before the street names and skyscrapers. They've lost a lot: land, space, and sometimes even recognition. But what they still have is pride, culture, and identity. This is what it means to be Ghana in modern day Accra, and maybe, just maybe, there's still a lot the city can learn from its original people. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.